Okay, so for the first layer, we're going to do the petals of the sunflower. And I'm using a flat brush or bright, medium size, or maybe a small kind of. So you could get, if it's too flat, if it's too big, the color will be flat, too flat. This way you will get more movement, more a pattern. It's better. So I wouldn't go too wide. I have here yellow ochre, and we're going to start with yellow ochre and cadmium yellow medium because it's warmer than cadmium yellow light. Cadmium yellow light is a bit too strong. So I'm going to wet my brush. Start with mixing yellow ochre, and we don't need to have a dark layer and then I think we can just start with mixing both of them. Yellow ochre will make the cadmium yellow medium a bit darker. And then, okay. See, I'll start from here. I'm going to overlap a bit with the bumblebee. Oh, I'm in trouble. After I primed, I went over with the pencil crayon, and it's dark pencil crayon. So I'm getting dark lines in here, but that's okay. I can always cover them after. It's not a big deal. I shouldn't have done that. I like this combination of colors. It's awesome. It's really good. Yellow ochre, cadmium yellow medium. If you don't have cadmium yellow medium, yellow ochre will be good with a bit of cadmium yellow light. So at first what I'm doing is I am going kind of flat like this. And then I turn it around. So when I turn it around, it gives me a really nice line instead of having it flat. So the first layer is flat just to fill. And then I turn it around on the side. So my brush is on the side, sideways. I have more control when it's sideways. And it gives me a really nice, beautiful pattern. Wow, it is. It's like a permanent this pencil crayon is like a permanent ink. It's so strong. Actually, I'm using just, for now, I'm using yellow ochre, and it's working. It's good to have an orange color underneath. It helps. I'm gonna go over the wing. So where the wings are, I'm not going heavy. Some like a glazing over this, so I can see the wings, because there's kind of a transparency there eventually. And if you lose it, you lose the pattern of the wings. That's okay. We could put them back. I wouldn't use cadmium yellow medium where the wings are. So where there's transparency, it should be kind of darker. So this where the wings are should be a little bit darker. But I mean, if if it's not, it's not a big deal. Once we put the wings on, we're going to be glazing the wings on. Okay. Good enough for first layer. Okay, so I'm using a wider brush now. I'm going to start highlighting. So I have here still some of my yellow ochre, and I'm going to start introducing yellow, cadmium yellow medium. I'm mixing it with yellow ochre, but a lot more cadmium yellow medium right now. So I'm going to go side of my brush, just because when you highlight, you end up with, most of the time, you end up with kind of flat, and I don't want a flat. Brush stroke or color there. So this is good. And I'm going to leave some darks in there too. I don't want to get rid of all of the darks, because if I do, then I lose depth. Okay, good.
How wide of a brush are you using?
Wider, but it's not that wide, but it's wider and it holds enough paint in there. It doesn't matter how wide it is because it's on the side, right? So if you're using it on the sideways, on side, it doesn't matter.
It's medium you're using.
Yeah, medium, medium. If I lose the dark in between and I get too much highlight, I can just put in some yellow ochre in there. I don't know why I bothered with the wings. They're gone. I can hardly see them. It's okay. It's good. By the time we put the bee on top, we don't need to do more than that. It's good enough. Okay, so let's take, for the inside of the flower, the first layer, let's take yellow ochre and burnt sienna for the first layer. I'm going to mix them together. And this is kind of the right color now for the under. Underpainting kind of. I wouldn't, you know, I would, so I have here, I should say, like mention, I have yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and I have burnt umber, and this is cadmium red light. So I'm preparing, getting ready for the right side. So left side behind the bumblebee, I'm using yellow ochre and burnt sienna. And I'm going to add a touch of, especially here, a bit of burnt umber in here. Trying not to get a very strong kind of heavy line in here. So I'm trying to make my brush stroke softer on this side. This is, you know, mostly yellow, I mean, mostly burnt sienna and burnt umber. And I can see that right behind, right in this area here, the color starts to change into more of a lighter and more orangey. So slowly, I just want to make sure that sometimes, you know, I'm going to go inside this bumblebee a bit, like overlap it a bit, overlap the color a bit with the bumblebee. Okay. It will dry darker. So I'm trying to leave this side where the bumblebee is more like feathery. So I don't end up with a straight line. Although I'm going to go out with the feathers. So with not feathers, with her, you know, what are they called?
Wings? No.
Wings? No, her, you know,
Hairs.
hair. In this area, there's the shadow of the bumblebee. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of more of the burnt umber over the wing, because those wings are transparent. So okay, not too much. Right. Okay, so now from here on, I'm going to move to cadmium red light. Take some, make an orange. It's a dark orange because of the burnt umber or burnt sienna, doesn't matter, as long as it's an orange, like an earthy orange. This needs to be darker because I'm going to put a pattern over it. So it has to be darker. So I'm taking some of I'm darkening my orange more by using burnt sienna. Now we don't want the flower to be the focal point, so even those round little dots shouldn't be too strong. Just it should be a suggestion after. All right, now let's take that orange. I'm going to highlight this area a little bit more because we don't need it to be too dark. Using cadmium yellow medium with the orange, earthy orange, not just cadmium yellow medium. Cadmium yellow medium is a highlight. So I still want to make sure that I have a dark base. So when I put my pattern on top, or those dots on top, I can see them. I don't want them to be too dark. I don't want the, I'm sorry, I don't want the base to be too light.
Layal, what's the combination again of where you're working now on the highlighted area?
Okay, so this area here is burnt sienna. Actually, what I did is I mixed cadmium red light with cadmium red medium right here on this side. Then I added burnt sienna to this combination to make it more earthy, and a bit of yellow ochre. This area here. Is this what you're asking here?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It's a earthy orange. So earthy orange is if you mix any orange and you add burnt sienna or you add yellow ochre to it, it becomes earthy. It becomes darker, but it's not brown, dark.
Seems to be a little bit of green in there too. Under the wing?
In the reference.
Yes.
Yes. We can add this after.
Okay.
We can glaze this after. Can put it on before we start putting the dots.
Mhm.
We'll add a bit of green in there. Yeah, I saw that. I think the green is nice. It gives it a bit of, all around the wing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for this part, I'm going to use first layer to start putting some texture. Cadmium red light and yellow ochre. I'm just going to start kind of randomly put some dots in there. Some of them overlapping, some of them are not. You know, making sure that I take advantage of the brown I have underneath. I don't want to completely cover it. And you know what? I don't want this to take over and to be too strong. The more dots we put, the stronger the pattern is. So some areas we will have dots and some areas would be overlapping those dots and make it softer. So meaning, this is what I mean. So making this is strong because I can see the brown in between. But if I overlap a bit, I soften this pattern. Some you can see the strong, the under, you know, the brown underneath, and some areas you don't. Because this, although it is the background, we have to keep in mind that the focal point is the bee. And if we do too much around the bee, especially strong patterns, it's going to take over. It's going to be too much.
And now with sunflowers, there is a pattern in the.
It is.
in the-
There is.
So are you trying to do that at all, or are you suggesting we don't try?
This part of the flower, of the sunflower, there isn't, but the center one, there is. You know what I mean? Like this center from, I would say half from here to almost all of this here. Yes, there is. But I'm gonna do a suggestion. This is too much, way too much. And the pattern is on a line, you know, like it's in a specific line. It's not random.
Yeah.
So no, I would probably make sure that it's not all of it is done that way. You know what I mean? Like when we get there, I would do a suggestion that will show the line, but then after I would just let it fade. It's too much, way too much. It will take over.
Mhm.
I added a touch of, this is an orange using red and yellow ochre, but I added a touch of burnt sienna in it.
Sorry, I have to clean my chair because I painted my chair.
You painted your chair?
Yes,
Oh.
I'm getting paint all over. It's okay, I cleaned it up.
Yeah, kind of. In this area here, when I get to this away from the bee, I'm gonna make it kind of fade a bit, fade them. So closer to the bee, I have more pattern, like stronger patterns, stronger detail. Away from the bee, less detail. It's very dark in the on the camera. It's not that dark in here. Hold on.
It almost looks like all burnt umber, but there was burnt sienna in there, wasn't
Oh,
there?
yeah. There's burnt sienna. That's why I'm trying to figure out the color so you can see the burnt sienna. I'm adjusting the camera. There is, yes, absolutely. Oh, what did I do? Oh. Not sure if this is better, but even those, this part even has a specific pattern, but I'm not following it for now. Yeah, you can see that like there are rows of a pattern, a specific one here. We can put a suggestion after over this, over what I'm doing right now. The camera is showing too much detail. It's not like this here. So if I want to do now the start a bit with the inside, which is an orange. Darken it a bit. That's I'm mixing red and yellow, red and cadmium yellow medium, and I'm adding a touch of yellow ochre in it to make it more earthy, especially here. This is not orangey enough. I'm gonna add more red. And in between, you can see in the original, there's no dark in here. Okay, you know what? Before I do this, I'm gonna adjust the background. So I'm gonna take red and yellow ochre, because this background is really dark, and that's because it's acrylic, it dries darker. I'm going to softly soften this background a bit. It just dried too dark. Using orange, earthy orange. It's going to dry darker still, but it's better than what's happening right now. Color lifted a bit because I'm using too much water. Well, there was a bit of water in here, so it lifted the color, lifted the paint.
Are you using mostly yellow there?
This is an orange, earthy orange. So I'm using cadmium red light cadmium yellow medium and some yellow ochre in it. But the more I get to this part here, the lighter part, I'm putting more yellow, cadmium yellow light in that mixture. So I'm highlighting this area a little bit more. Because there's just a lot more highlight in here. You have to just keep an eye on it because you don't want the color to be too light. But at the same time, it is highlighted. Because I have to keep in mind, this is the mistake I made. I forgot that acrylic dries darker, right? So when I came to add the little dots, the pattern, the background was too dark. So the dots look like they're heavy and strong, and they're not. They're there, but they do blend with the background. Okay, so that's better. It's just a bit darker in here, and then lighter right there, lighter orange. So yes, I'm adding more yellow in here with my orange. I have to wait for it to dry. I can't do anything right now. You know, I'm going to try something here. This side. I'm going to soften a bit this part by using red and burnt sienna. Touch of yellow ochre in here too. Let me soften this a bit. That's better. And then I'm going to try take the same color, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, bit of yellow ochre in here. Actually, I'm going to bring burnt sienna to here, to this part. And I'm going to add yellow with a bit of red, touch of red and yellow, more red. So I softened the background I had before, and I'm just adding a couple of patterns, kind of bigger than what I had before. That's better. The more in I go in there, in this area, the darker. I don't want them to be too light. No light. Okay. That's good. So the first layer was a bunch of colors together, not very defined, all of these brush strokes and layers. And then the last one has a bit more definition. Same, it's an orange, it's a light orange, but it's an orange, actually, I shouldn't say light. It is a red and yellow ochre, but I added more of the cadmium yellow medium to make it a lighter orange. So this is good. I just have to make sure that this here, before I start, let me see if I can do it right now, if it's dry. It's hard because it's an earthy orange. It's not really an orange, so you have to be careful. I have to be careful with my orange. Okay, let's see now. So if I take slightly lighter orange than what I have here, so I can see those round. Just put a bit of burnt sienna in there. I can't see it. This is burnt sienna. Yeah, I see now. Yellow, burnt sienna. Let's see if I can see. Oh, that's better. That's better. There. It does turn around, right? I think. So I'm making those circles bigger than what I see in the reference, slightly bigger. Make them bigger so they can. You know what I can do after, if I find that they're too light, I can just glaze the whole thing with a darker color to push them back. Push back this area, because this area is dark. It's where the you know, the bee is casting a shadow over this, but it's easier to do it that way. It's easier to put those and then put a glaze it darker. So if the background and the circles on top are closer in value, they don't jump too much. They don't take, they don't look too light. Again, I don't want them to look perfect. I just want a suggestion. Soft suggestion, and that's good enough.